It's time for a special program called The 11th Hour, featuring Hughes, Deputy Director of the Washington County Board of Behavioral Health. This weekly program will shed light on important issues in our area and the positive steps we're taking to combat them.
Good morning. This is Hughes with your local radio station, WMOA, and this is time for the 11th hour here in Washington County. So with me today, I have two special guests. I have Janice McFarland, who is the Director of Clinical Services for Life and Purpose Behavioral Health. Welcome, Janice.
Thanks for having me.
And I also have Abby Roach, who's the Peer Recovery Support Specialist for Life and Purpose Behavioral Health. Hi. It's great to have both of you here with me, and I thought we could start off by talking a little bit about what you do in your role. So, Janice, tell us, what is a typical day like for you?
A typical day is chaos. As Director of Clinical Services, it's my job to oversee, supervise, and grow the folks that I have working for me, providing direct service, as well as all of our programming. So a typical day is a lot of problem solving. It's a lot of collaboration, not only with people on my staff, but community stakeholders, probation, parole, the hospital, the board, CPS, all of these places. But it's my job to make sure that our clients are getting the absolute best that they can out of our folks.
So in other words, you mean you're managing the chaos?
Yeah, that's my job.
Okay, that's good.
To contain the chaos.
Very good. So I know there's a lot of talk today about peer recovery support. So talk to me a little bit about, Abby, what your typical day is in the role of peer recovery support specialist.
So a typical day is chaotic also, but it's a good chaos. I work generally with clients that are in intensive outpatient. So I am trying to help them bridge the gap between their services at our agency and in the community. So that means like taking them to outside meetings, 12-step meetings, or whatever path of recovery they have chosen. So I try to engage them in things in the community.
So let's talk a little bit about challenges. I know you both are dealing with sort of managing chaos and helping people, and that can certainly be very demanding and very rewarding. Let's talk about challenges. What are some of the challenges you feel like you face in helping your clients?
From my perspective, the biggest challenge that I face to help clients is making sure that I have a team of service providers that's big enough to meet the need of our area. Staff shortage has always been an issue, and I think will likely remain an issue, but we're really lucky to have wonderful people doing this work up at our agency. So from my perspective, it's just making sure that I get qualified, enthusiastic people on staff to provide services.
So anyone out there in the listening audience that's having a career crisis, you might want to consider going into behavioral health. Lots of opportunities. So what about for you, Abby? What do you find to be the most challenging?
So the most challenging is seeing people that don't make it and engaging with people and seeing them do well for a period of time and then seeing them fall off. That's the most discouraging for me.
So in terms of having lived experience, what do you think you can offer the person that may be relapsing or having trouble staying in recovery?
I think that I am able to speak their language, and that's what worked best for me. Therapy obviously is very, very important, but having somebody else there that's able to just speak the same language as you and understand what you're going through on a completely different level, in a more personal level, is very, very important. And it was very important and effective for me. So
in terms of like our listening audience, if they are concerned about the disease that we're talking about, and I know in our community today there's been quite a lot of stigma, what would you say to try to get people to kind of open their minds a little bit more about the work that you both are doing that's so important for the success and livelihood of our community?
Well, I think that the situation that our country is in right now makes it very clear that nobody is safe. Nobody is guaranteed not to end up with this disease. The judgments that we all have about this population of people are really counterproductive. And at this point, I think we're at a place as an area and possibly as a country that you're probably not being truthful with yourself if you say that you don't know somebody who's personally affected by the disease of addiction. And everybody's a person. We need to treat people like people and not the diseases that they have been diagnosed with. And that's what I am trying to instill in all my staff, not just the ones who primarily treat substance abuse disorders, but everybody's a person, and everybody has a right to a better life, no matter what kind of mistakes they've made before. And how awful to live in a world where us mere mortals get to decide who gets the opportunity to be better. I just think that we need to open our hearts a little bit. I don't think it's about our minds. I think it's about our hearts. And we need to make decisions to care about people, no matter what they've done or how they've behaved. Everybody's capable of change, and we need to, I think, just soften a little bit.
Well, as I hear you talking, Janice, I'm reminded of the Recovery is Beautiful logo and the bracelet, the purple bracelet that we wear in support of people who are in recovery as a community. So, you really underscored the fact that this is something that we all have to work together and support each other, and kind of reminds me of it takes a village, right,
Yes,
to raise a
does.
child,
Yes, it
and we're a part of that village here in Washington County. So what about for you, Abby?
I totally agree with what Janice said, and we have to love people exactly where they are. And I even have to remind myself of that, because my level of willingness may have been higher or lower for other people that I work with. So you just have to meet them where they are and love them until they do have a high level of willingness, or everybody is different. And I was at an event the other day, and there was 449 people there, and they asked every person to stand up that has been affected either personally by addiction or has a family member that's been affected, and every single person in the room stood up. And I thought that was very powerful, because everybody, almost everybody in this community could say that they either have a child or they know somebody personally that has been affected by addiction. So we have to love them, and people, want to help, and we want to see this get better. So we have to love people.
So I've heard a lot about love today. I've heard about community support, and I'm also reminded of what my mom used to tell me growing up: be patient and be persistent. I think, the 2 P's, patience and persistence, are also really important here. So if people listening want to get help for themselves or their loved ones, how should they do that? What number should they call? And just talk to me a little bit about what would happen when they make that first call.
So if you are concerned about someone who you think is struggling and needs help, I would advise you to call our office at 740-376-0930. Ask to speak to our service coordinator. She can kind of help give you a little bit of information, whether that's inpatient, outpatient, kind of letting you know what the scope of our practice is. But ideally, we need a phone call from the person who needs help. Substance abuse treatment is voluntary. It's not something that somebody else can kind of have done for them. So we need to hear from the person who needs help. But if you have questions, call our office, tell us that you have questions, and we'll do our best to point you in the right direction.
And what is the number they should call?
740-376-0930.
Well, I want to thank Janice and Abby for being here today and for inspiring our community to think about each other, to be patient, to be persistent, and to open your hearts and to love. This is Hillis Hughes signing off for WMOA, the 11th Hour, your local radio station.
Thanks for listening to the 11th Hour, a service of the Washington County Board of Behavioral Health. Tune in next Friday at 11:05 a.m. right here on WMOA for another edition of the 11th hour.